Here we go.
So I can click listen in, and
Uh,
then I can see. Yeah, I can see ourselves.
yeah,
How much? How much is the delay? It's not so much, right? If I raise my hand,
yeah.
that's like
It's
within
not
2
too
seconds.
bad.
Not too bad.
He's probably, yeah. He's doing a few round trips here. I mean, if you think about it, it's starting with you over there, coming
Yeah.
to coming to America, coming down to my recorder, being captured by OBS, going back to Discord, back to you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
Actually. And
pretty,
that's all
it's pretty
within 2
incredible,
seconds.
really.
Yeah.
Hi, folks. We'll just give everyone a moment to get in. Just want to make sure you can hear me and you can hear Teemo okay. Yay, Philip's here. Good to see Philip Meyer here.
Yeah,
Nice.
I see some familiar names.
Oh, you should know plenty of these people, Teemo.
Actually, I mean, I haven't been so active in the Discord, so I don't know all the Discord.
Yeah. Do you
Like
still
regulars.
spend a bit of time in the Max MSP Facebook, right?
Now and then, but also I'm losing a bit touch with Facebook as well. So I'm a bit in between. Like sometimes I check the Discord and answer some questions if there's some questions, but
Yeah.
also when I close Discord, I forget about it. So then maybe a week goes by and then I'm back in and I'm like, yeah, maybe I
That
can
is
help
one
some
of the
people.
things about the Facebook group, like, because it kind of was it's a group within another platform from which you would communicate with friends or, be there getting messages from your mum. Whatever.
No, my mom doesn't send me messages on Facebook.
My mum did.
Your
My
mom does.
mum,
Okay, fair enough.
serial. She's still playing whatever candy game it is on Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
Hanging out
The
with all of
classic.
her friends.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I think for me I'm not saying I enjoy Facebook, but I enjoyed the Facebook Max group a lot.
Yeah.
And what I like a bit better about it compared to Discord is that I have a bit better overview of what people posted, and then the discussion happens in the thread of that post. And on
Right.
Discord it's just because not everybody like is
Yeah,
on
it'd
top of
kind of
making a
be
thread
like,
for every post. So it's just one long post of messages, and I'm not scrolling back for more than a few seconds to see what has happened. So I miss a lot of things because of that, I think. But it's just a different way of messaging, of course. So
yeah, I
it is what
hadn't
it
really
is.
thought about that, but it makes sense. It's like Facebook is kind of like one big long general chat, like
Yeah,
equivalent of,
it's a bit more like the Max forum also. You just get the topics and then you can join in and see the rest of the conversation. While
yeah.
in Discord you just see the whole conversation.
Yeah, and in Discord you need to physically kind of go into each thread to catch up and
Also, yeah,
after
if there is even a thread,
right,
because sometimes
after
it's just
catching up.
posts after each other. Yeah,
I do find that myself. I go into Discord and I'll catch up on a few threads, and then after a moment, I'm kind of like, oh, I can only catch up on so many, and then
yeah, exactly.
I
And
may
then
have
it's like that's it for
actually
today.
missed some.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
funny. I feel like with all of these platforms, like the community has no one central hub. Like and as social media splinters and
yeah,
expands. We're kind of
yeah. It's very difficult. Yeah, and actually, I mean, like I don't know if I would prefer there would be one perfect place where everything would be, but it is nice to have some location where you can kind of from there find things on different platforms as well. That would be interesting. But
yeah. I truly wish and you kind of made me think about this when you mentioned Facebook, like that you could create your own kind of modular environment, right?
yeah, where you can have like things from all over the place. Yeah.
So
I guess that's the idea of Mastodon, but then first everybody has to make different servers on Mastodon as well. So,
right.
but But I think it's a shame that like a lot of interesting things were posted on the Max Facebook group, and now they just disappear because
That
nobody
really
is there and nobody is archiving that either. So it's also not on the Cycling 74 forums.
that is one thing, and if you spend any time in the cycling forums, folks, you'll know that, you know, there's a long history of incredible Max development there, and it's so easy actually to find, you know, a solution or inspiring piece of you know, Max coding. But yeah, I do, there's been some wild threads on the Facebook group, and yeah, I actually remember going back trying to find one in particular that I could remember, and I was like, you know, I spent a long time trying to find it, and then I thought maybe that person is not on Facebook anymore. And I remembered the person who had posted, and yeah, they had removed themselves from Facebook, and I presume they scrubbed all their, you know, posts, which which meant that that post on Facebook was gone.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I've also been guilty because, I mean, I posted a lot on the Facebook group and not on the Max forum. So in that sense, if I leave Facebook, that is also gone, of course. So
I also think forums are just, you know, I don't know. They're a certain period of time, and a lot of younger users are not. So, you know.
Yeah, I guess it is good to have a habit of at least having some place where you document something that you know is for the rest, for a longer period preserved.
Yeah.
So maybe we should make a habit of, if something very interesting is posted in the Discord, somebody should move it.
I've talked about this at Cycling before. It's like maybe we could create some technology there that could, you know, co-author, co-post over to the forum so things get archived instead of instead of being so.
Yeah, and I think this ties a little bit into all the projects that I do as well, because I prefer to document things on GitHub, for example, and then I have all my projects there, also for others to use, and then at least there's one place where you can find it. But
I was just looking at your. Well, folks, I'm gonna just pull it up a second here.
Maybe welcome. We should officially start.
Welcome to Discord Office Hours. Obviously, we've got Timo Hoogland here from the Netherlands. Super stoked to have Timo in for a chat. Just before offline, we were talking about how he and I have sent thousands of messages to one another, never actually spoken to each other until today. It's kind of hilarious. For those of you who perhaps don't know Teemo is a computational artist, live coder. He's also plays live in various ways. Technologist, educator from the Netherlands. Livecodes experimental electronic dance music, develops generative audiovisual compositions, installations, performances, and yet I still feel like this is selling you short, Timo. Welcome to Office Hours.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be part of it.
I think if you've spent any time around the forums, the Facebook group, the Discord, it's only a matter of time until you bump into Timo or his work. Shares an incredible amount of his progress and his developments from Max. Very generous artist within the Max community. And you made me think about this too when you mentioned that you share all your work on GitHub, and I just posted it here in the chat because I looked at your GitHub earlier today when I grabbed the link, and I was like, wow, he's got a lot of check-ins there. There's a lot of solid green there, Timo.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I would recommend everybody to just have a look there because it's there, so you can use it. I don't know. For me, it's like when I'm researching some new project, or when I'm just studying and trying different things out. yeah, I try to make a habit of documenting things properly, and especially if I think this is something interesting that I can use in the future, and maybe someone else can also use in the future. Like, we don't have to invent the wheel every time, and I guess even though sometimes it's also nice to actually reinvent the wheel because you learn a lot from the process, it can also be very helpful to just start with something someone else made. And I do the same, like I learn a lot from what other people are making. And I mean, I'm following the forums and the Discord and reading books as well. So yeah, I think it's more than natural to also share something back. And since, I mean, one big part is that I'm a teacher also, so I teach Max in real life to students. But yeah, I also like to just share the software that I created. So it's on GitHub mainly. Also, I have some stuff on Gumroad. I can share the links later. It's actually in my slideshow as well, once we get to that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really touches on something interesting too. And I mean, I think almost everyone at some point in their max life feels the need to share if they've created something. And I think there's something beautiful about the Max community. I know that others exist in a similar vein, but I've not struck anything quite like myself personally, not as a Cycling 74 person, but like as a just artist myself, that so happily shares freely the whole community. It's incredible. And we're all standing on the shoulders of giants because, I mean, I think from earlier in Max in its early years, yeah, people were sharing, and it's just kind
Exactly,
of
yeah.
there
It's
was
the
like a
only way to learn.
standard set, and it's continued like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I try to continue that also by yeah, just doing my part. And I mean, for me, the best thing would be that someone else, and it has happened a few times, that someone else makes something and that they say, "Hey, this is inspired by what you made, and here's something in return," and then I can have a look at it, and I'm like, "Ah, amazing! This is something I didn't think of," or
Ah,
I'm happy this project continues because I have a few repositories on GitHub that, like, I haven't looked at in years,
yeah.
but maybe someone else can find a new purpose for it and continue it in some way or another.
That
And
is the
that's also a
best.
reason
Yeah.
that's there. Yeah.
That's definitely the best. I love it when people take something, an idea that you had, and you shared it. You know, you weren't sure where it could go, or you know, it had some possibilities, and then you kind of see it on the other end where it's being augmented, and you're like,
Yeah, exactly.
ah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's incredible.
And it just happened today because somebody posted in the Discord some type editor for Jitter that they made, and they said it was inspired by another text editor that I made in the past for the live coding performances I do.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, it's very nice to see. So
That's
I'm
cool.
very happy with those things. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, Timu, super awesome to have you here. I believe you got a little bit of a presentation to show us.
Yeah,
So
maybe we should move to the. I mean, I was just thinking doing a short introduction in the things that I'm doing, though,
yeah,
especially
let's
for the
kick it
people
off.
that don't really know what type of works I make.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, just to give a little overview, I will, or at least I have two projects that I thought could be nice to dive in a bit deeper, like actually show the patch, of course, because yeah, we're here to see some Max objects. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So we're not going to look at a slideshow for the entire time. But yeah, the slideshow could be a good start.
Yeah, let's have a look. And I just want to say, folks, as we're moving through, if you have questions for Timo, you drop them in the chat if they're relevant. If they're not relevant or out of context, I'll save the questions until the end. But I'll keep track of the questions here. Don't hesitate to and ask questions in the chat as we move along. Timo, take it away, mate.
Yeah, I already saw a question if the patches that I'm gonna show are on GitHub. And the answer is yes, but actually one is also a package in Max, so you can download the package later.
That's the AV
Um,
Toolbox, right?
that's the audiovisual toolbox. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the other project is my live coding project that you can also download. I will mention where it is later. Let's see. So, I mean, this was already said by Tom, so thank you for that. I can skip this slide. So I thought maybe it's nice to tell a little bit about my background and how I got into using Max, for example, as well. So I have a background in drumming. I started playing drums when I was, I don't know, 10, 11, playing in high school bands. Maybe this is familiar to some of you as well, because I think many Max programmers come with a musical background, although it doesn't have to be the case, of course. And so I studied something called Pop Academy. I'm not sure how this is in, for example, America or other places in the world, but here in the Netherlands, you can study conservatory, but there's also something called Pop Academy, which, as the name suggests, focus more on popular music, rock, pop rock, those types of genres. So I studied that for 3 years, and during that study, I got more and more interested also in recording and engineering and basically producing my own records, which of course is very helpful if you want to play drums and you can't afford the studio. So with that in mind, I didn't want to continue with only drumming, so I continued doing a bachelor in music technology in the specific the branch audio design. So this is a study you can do in the University of Arts in Utrecht, which is a city in the center of the Netherlands, about 45 minutes away from Amsterdam, I think. No, a bit closer actually, maybe 20. And one big thing of that study, audio design, is programming. And basically the first day I got into this education, we started doing Max. Besides other programming languages.
Very
and
cool.
That's how I got into into learning Wax, because for me that was like immediately it clicked. I was like, this is amazing. You can just design anything you like and think about the system, and it's kind of like a big puzzle, which I really enjoyed, to just try to find a solution to problems that you come up with. So I continued doing that study, basically following kind of two directions. On one side, the studio technology part, where I'm learning to mix and master recordings, engineer, place microphones, etc. And on the other side, I was continuing also in the software development part. They call it in the education, they call it creative system design. But basically, you get programming in C++ and Max MSP. Python, for example, is also part of that. And so during the course of the study, I was basically also making more and more audiovisual installations and things like that. So at the end of the study, I felt I was not completely ready to dive into the field yet and become, I don't know, an artist or a professional. So that's why I decided to continue with a master's. So I studied the Masters of Music at the same school. They call it a Master of Music Design, because you're not really specifically doing a master's for some specific instrument, but you're more doing a master's for, different types of things, designing your artist practice, basically. And so during that master's, I was trying to find ways of how I want to continue my practice. And so this is my website with a bunch of different projects. And one of those main projects that I wanted to show a little bit more is the live coding language, Mercury, that I worked on. Because during the masters, I was thinking like, okay, how can I now still? I lost a bit touch with playing drums live, and I still wanted to perform live, but the audiovisual systems I was making were not really meant for performing live. They were more like an installation or a composition. Um, and so my master supervisor, which was Marcel Wierks, and maybe some of you know him, um, also a Max programmer, and also taught me some Max as well. He pointed me towards the live coding scene, and yeah, that basically changed a lot because I was like, whoa, this is something I never seen before. There's just people programming live on stage and making music with the code. Um, so I thought I want to dive deeper into that as well and see if I can make a system where I can perform live with, which also gives me the possibility of improvisation and change everything on the fly and make the composition live. Um, I have this slide because I wanted to say I'm also a teacher here now. Well, when after I studied, so this is the school HKU Music and Technology. So here's a short video of what this live coding performance looks and sounds like. So basically, you will see, and I'm not sure how the quality is over the stream and if you can read any of this text, but basically I can actually also share the links to these videos later if you want. You can see the code that I'm writing, and the code is projected for the audience so they can read it as well. And the code is, yeah, reflecting what you'll hear in the music. And at the same time, there's also visuals behind the code that are responding to the sound. In my live coding performances, I prefer to work on the music, so the visuals were coded beforehand, and they just run in the background. So I can focus completely on the sound. So this is what it sounds like. We tested the sound, right? I think the volume should be good, but let me know if not. I will skip a bit through the video as well. Let's see. So basically, it's electronic dance music, and throughout the performance, I'm changing the code. Usually, I start from scratch, and so basically, this is a system that runs in Max. Only you don't see Max on stage; you just see the code that I'm writing. But this is completely a jitter patch with a GGL text object, for example. I can show you all these things later. And everything under the hood is just Max. And so for me, the idea was that I can still use the code to dynamically change the whole performance, improvise with it, allow for different instruments to be added or removed, different effects, all these types of things.
Wow.
So I do live performances as in a duo. The duo is called Damage Such. I play together with Lina Bautista. She's from Barcelona. Yeah, we started playing music together a couple of years ago. I can't remember really why. We just got interested in programming together. And for this, we are using a collaborative coding editor. So, I mean, it's basically a Google Docs where you can type together in the same file. So we can perform together and work together on the sound, and yeah, play like a band. So some parts I take care of the drums, and Lina takes more care of the chords, or sometimes we swap, and sometimes we just go all over the place and also change each other's code as well. So this was a recent performance we did in Turin.
And you actually use a Google Doc?
Oh, sorry.
You actually use a Google Doc?
No, we don't use Google Doc. No, it's just was a
Like a Google
comparison.
Doc.
Yeah, yeah, like a Google Doc. Yeah. No, we use a platform called Flock
Okay,
with a
yeah.
K. Flock, just a K, FLOK, .cc. It is a platform where you can program together and in different languages, and you can send the code over the network. So when you can also perform remotely. We've
Awesome.
done online live streams where I was here in the Netherlands and Lina was in Spain, and you can still perform together as well.
That's cool.
And I mean, we are not sending the sound over the network in those performances. We are just both running a local version of the audio engine. But because the code is the same, we can pretty much say that we are listening the same, but it's not always the case because if we work with probabilities and randomness, then sometimes the sound on one side is a bit different than on the other side.
Mm,
Because, yeah, you're not sure if you have a random rhythm generator, then my random rhythm will be a bit different than the one on the other side,
right.
which is also funny. So you're not always listening the same thing. Yeah, in any case, this is kind of what it sounds like. So that's that. And then another project I'm currently working on, which is kind of a continuation of this live coding performance, is called drum code. Because yeah, first the question was how can I still perform live with this electronic music because I'm not playing drums anymore live. And now the question was, but now I'm not playing drums anymore live. How can I still combine the drums with the live coding? So I'm doing both. And that's how this project came to be. And the idea is that I'm collaborating with the computer. I have a library of different code options that the computer can kind of choose from. And then the computer listens for what I play on the drums in real time. And basically, based on the things that I'm playing, the computer makes decisions on what will happen next in the composition.
Is the
So
computer assessing transients on each part of the drum kit, or?
yeah, I use contact microphones on the snare and the bass drum and the hi-hat.
Yep.
So for the snare and the bass drum, there's these specific drum triggers from a brand called D-Drum that you can buy and you can mount them on the drums and then plug in an XLR cable. Um, Although you can also just tape a piezo if you want to do it DIY. Actually, if somebody is interested in that, I have a document that explains how you can solder a DIY piezo as well if you want.
Yeah.
And basically, yeah, it does transient detection on the sound. And it also looks in time what the transients are, so what the rhythm is that I'm playing.
Yep.
So there's a history capped of the amount of hits and where they are placed. And based on the specific rhythms that I'm playing, the computer responds to that differently. So I can kind of control the response with a specific rhythm. Because I was thinking if it's like a jam session, usually the drummer gives some sign to the other instrumentalists, like we're going to the chorus or the verse or I don't know, some other section of the song.
Yep.
And that sign is usually done with a fill on the snare drum, on the toms, combinations. So I was trying to make this collaboration kind of musically in that sense that I can make the sign on with a fill. I can do like ta 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 ta, and then the computer knows there's a next section coming. So the next bar we have to have a different bass or a different chord progression or I don't know something else. So that is what happens in the performance. But the computer makes some decisions for itself as well. So that means that I have to listen what the decisions were, and then we're kind of like jamming, and there's this loop going. Like I improvise based on what I hear, and then the computer improvises based on what the computer hears, and then we go back and forth. And it sounds like this. now it would be nice if I can find a moment that very clearly shows how it works, but that's always tricky. But in any case, I can just share the video link as well and let you hear some different parts also, of course. All right. Yeah, and so this is one more video that is based on this project as well. Only it's a collab with Lina, where she plays guitar and does some live coding. And we have some connections between the drums and the guitar as well. So we were looking at some ways to, for example, make the guitar sound more rhythmical, or make the drums sound more melodical, I guess. So what we do is basically in the patch, the sound of the guitar goes through the computer and the sound of the drums as well. And then we use some amplitude following system that allows the drums to control the amplitude of the guitar. So even though Lina plays continuously, if I don't do anything, there's no sound, for example. And then this is the performance basically. All right.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was very nice to explore with this and experiment with this. Trying to do it in different directions as well. So, like, how do you make sounds on the drums that are sounding more continuously? So when Lina plucks a string, you can actually hear the drum sound do the same thing that you hear on the guitar. So for that we tried different things, like play with the brushes so it sounds more noisy on the snare drum, so you can make some kind of like soundscape out of that, and use the cymbal swells as well. It's in the video, so I will share that as well. Yeah, so finally, this is basically some stuff that I work on besides just the live performances. So this is my Gumroad page that I mentioned in the intro a little bit. So I have the GitHub, but I also have Gumroad, where you can look at some projects, and you can download them. Some are for a little price, but if you just email me, then we can surely work something out. Or some you can find on GitHub as well. So always go to GitHub first. But some are not on there. So for example, some audiovisual things I just posted here. And then there's the AV-Toolbox that we are going to talk about in a little bit.
AV-Toolbox.
And there's also this package that is not in the package manager, but it is on the on GitHub and on the site of Cycling74. It's for it's some multi-channel utilities for the MC objects. Basically, this was a project where I made some kind of object inspired by the list objects, like the ZL object. So there's like mc.rot for rotate, so you can rotate channels. There's mc.indexmap, so you can reorder the channels. There's mc.scramble, so you can scramble the multi-channel every time you hit the bang, for example. So there's different types of channel objects that are that basically work the same as the ZL object, but then it's for the multi-channel audio. Could be nice for those who are interested and using multi-channel a lot. This is the GitHub. And then, of course, I always have to thank my sponsors, because I'm not doing these projects only for free and in my spare time. Luckily, I got some funding from the Creative Industries Fund in the Netherlands, and the funding helped me to develop this live coding language, and also helps me to develop this drum code project at the moment. And I'm also supported by the Institute of Creative Coding Utrecht. They support me in kind by helping organizing workshops and meetups and those types of things. So that's very nice. Yeah, I haven't been following the Discord, but
Lots of chatter, Timo,
that's
but all
nice.
very complimentary and positive. A lot of people posting your links for you as we go along, which is really nice.
Ah, that saves me a lot of work.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so I was thinking I'll show Mercury a little bit and AV-Toolbox. This is just an empty patcher. We don't have to look at that. So this is Mercury. And let me say two things actually. So Mercury can run in Macs, but it can actually also run in the browser. So at the moment I have two versions. There's one that uses web audio and there's one that uses Macs. I personally use the Macs version because Macs just sounds better than web audio. But for ease of use in workshops, I tend to use the browser version because you can just run it by going to the website and you don't have to install anything separately. But since this is, of course, the Max office hours, we'll look at the Max version. And I think it's nice because it's the main version that I use. So we have a window here, and that is the code editor. So in this window, I can type stuff, and this editor is made with Jitter and JavaScript. And actually, if you want to use this editor, you can find it on my GitHub as well as a separate project. It's called th.gl.texteditor, I think. I cannot even remember. Let's see. /th.gl.texteditor. Yes. Yeah. So you can download, this is not Mercury, this is just a text editor with some visual examples. But if you just want that text editor as an overlay for your project, then you can download it and use it. And then the text editor will send the code to the Max patch to an interpreter. And then the interpreter will distribute basically the parameters and the code over the Max patch. So let me open this project and then I will show you how it works under the hood as well. Let's do it like this. How is this font? Is this readable in the Discord?
The font on the left side in the patcher is a little small. Yeah, if you could
I'll zoom in a bit. Yeah.
Thanks, Timo.
So this is the text editor. Here we have the interpreter. The interpreter is actually done in JavaScript. So what it does is it will look at the code. Like if I, for example, type new sample hi-hat 808, then this will get sent to the parser, and then based from the parser, it will get sent to the rest of the patch based on what I'm typing. So if I type like set tempo, not tempo 100, then you can imagine that the tempo has to be sent to the transport, or the global transport, and the sample has to be sent to some place where the sample is played, of course. So I have different locations for that in the patch. So there's, of course, a global transport that controls the timing. And then there's a poly object that allows me to make different instruments. So I can play a hi-hat, but I can also make a synthesizer, new synth, for example, a sawtooth. So if I do this and then evaluate, then we hear a hi-hat and a synth. Then I can change the timing. Or I can add like an effect. So this is a basic setup of what the code could look like, and yeah, because it's so highly abstracted, you have a very fast way to interact with the sound, which I really enjoy. So all these parameters are basically sent to this poly object that holds all these different instruments at some point. So for example, I can open the first one, and then inside one of those poly objects, there's basically an instance for all the possible synthesizers that you can choose. So there's an option for the synth or the sampler, or some different other types of synths, like some synth with frequency modulation, a polyphonic synth. There's some OSC output options or MIDI output options, car plus strong, polyphonic sampler, many different options, and those options are chosen based on the names that I give here in the front. So if it's a new sample or a new synth or new poly synth, then it chooses those synths in the poly to run from there. And all the arguments that are behind this, like the timing and the notes and the delay, those types of things, are parsed here on the top. Let me zoom in one more time, actually. And then they are sent to the different parameters within those synths, depending on what you are choosing. So I have a dictionary for every synth, and the dictionary holds all the default values. So this is needed in the case that if I just type this, then everything else should be reset to the default. And if you then type something like 1/7, then that will be replacing the default value from the dictionary for whatever you choose. And so I have all those synth options, and then I have one long chain of effects. And it's actually interesting. There's always many discussions about like how can we make a modular FX chain, or how can I do like be able to do any combination we want. And I tried to work with these things as well. This recently came up in the Discord again. I have a project that allows you to do like polys and polys, and then you can like make one. Like the chain can be as long as you like, because it adds poly objects based on the amount of effects you choose. But in the end, for me, this was too buggy, because I got crashes sometimes because it couldn't handle everything in time. So I decided in the end, for my live system, I will just do one fixed FX chain. So there's no option to change the order of the distortion and the filter in real time.
So with the poly version, were you dynamically creating different effects in different orders?
Yeah, exactly. And then it would load in a new patcher in the poly, and then load another patcher in that poly, and then it goes like every time a level deeper. But it was a very interesting project to work on. But for live situations, I just prefer something that I know works all the time. So I decided I'll do a fixed FX chain, and all these subpatches basically have a poly object in them, and either I bypass the effect or I use the effect if I type FX something. So for example, we have this hi-hat on top, and if I say FX delay, then the delay effect on the bottom here will be used. So the bypass is off, 0, 0. And if I decide to remove the delay, then the effect will be bypassed based off the code. So yeah, there's this whole list of different effects that are fixed in order. But to be honest, once you know that it's fixed, you also don't Yeah, you don't care so much if you want to change it. Like, I'm fine if the distortion is always after the filter or something. I don't even know if that's the case.
Right,
No,
right,
in this
right.
case, it's before the filter. But I have some other distortions behind the filter, so there's still some options. If you want distortion on the filter, then it is still there. Um, but yeah, sometimes you have to make a decision. Like, it could be there or it could be after, and yeah, it's just based on experience what I preferred in the end, and then that's the version that it became. Let me turn off this hi-hat actually because it's annoying. Um, so I have a clocking system also here. It's called a th.clockwarp. This is actually also an object that's on GitHub. So this object allows you to warp the clock in many different ways. So you can go from very simple quarter notes and eighth notes that I'm typing now to do more complex warping, like typing weird fractions that have to be calculated, how they match with the transport, of course. But there's also some ratcheting options in there and some other types of time warping. For those who are interested in using just that object, you can find it on GitHub as well. Yeah, this is a very brief overview of what the project looks like. Because I mean, I can zoom out and then there's still a bunch of other objects in the patch that we could look at. But I'm not sure how much more is interesting. Maybe there's some specific questions, then I can answer those, of course, if they are there now or later. But then maybe for this final 15 minutes, we can look a bit at the audiovisual toolbox as well.
Yeah, let's
What do
have
you
a look at the audiovisual toolbox, folks. Teemo's live coding platform is available. I think
Yeah,
there's some.
actually, you can download this if you want to look into this patch. So
Yeah, there's some incredible insights in there, and I remember you sharing Clock Warp.
mhm.
I need to take a look at that myself. It sounds fascinating. I'm very curious to dig into that. I remember when you
Yeah,
shared it.
I mean, I'm sure there's many things in there that you can probably program yourself, but it's definitely worth maybe having a look, or maybe there's something you didn't think
There's
about
always
before.
that thing though with looking at someone else's patch, right? It's like, yeah, I would have done that, and that, but then they will have. They've done sometimes they've done something in a different way, and it just
Exactly.
it makes you think outside the box, and
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I do the same thing. I look at other people's code as well. If they share it, then I'm happy to have a look into it as well.
Someone is asking about Max 9 support for Mercury.
Yeah. This is. I mean, is the question if it works, or is the question if
Any
it
plans to
specifically doesn't work?
support Max 9?
It's High Harmonics, a familiar name. Um, Actually, I recently
It
tried
sounds like
Mercury in
someone's using it with Max 9, so maybe it's
exactly,
fine.
yeah, exactly. I recently used it in Max 9 and it seemed to be working
Yeah.
from the brief things I tried. But I'm personally, as you can see, still using it in Max 8 now. I still have to take some time to move all my libraries over to Max 9 and make sure that everything works that I'm working on right now. And this always takes a little time,
Mm.
so I'm planning that for the summer vacation probably. Uh, so I have a little break, and then I can make sure that I can like migrate everything and make sure everything still works after summer. Um, but for now, I have this opened in Max 8. Yeah, but a brief try seemed that it worked in Max 9. So please give it a go. And actually, I would like if some people try it in Max 9, because if it doesn't work, then you can report me some bugs, and then I can have a look into it as well. That helps a lot in the process of developing. Okay, so this was the Mercury project, very briefly. Actually, there's also documentation for all of this. So if you go to the GitHub, basically if you go to my GitHub, and then you can find Mercury, it's like one of the first things. And then there's also some documentation and the documentation can give you everything you need to get started, and you can find how it works with all the functions and the effects, and it's all explained. And there's tutorials also as well, if you are interested. All right. So the other thing I wanted to show is let me close this, is the audiovisual toolbox that I released. I don't know when I released it. I think it was 2 years ago. And I'm waiting for Max. There we go. Perfect. So it's in the package manager. And basically the toolbox came out of, me making audiovisual projects, and every time patching the same thing, that I'm like, I'm patching the same thing every time. So then then it makes sense that you make some abstractions for that, or you make some snippets to be able to speed up your workflow a little bit. And so for me, this is kind of how the audiovisual toolbox came about. And then with that as well, I was thinking this is something that other people can find interesting too. And also because I'm teaching audiovisual courses at the uni, I also introduce my students to this package, and then they can use it as well if they like. So it's in the toolbox, or it's in the package manager. Sorry. And where to start? So if you click launch, you can see an overview of all the objects, and basically I put them in 3 categories. So you can do some analysis on the sound, which is very common if you do audiovisual works, because you probably want some form of interaction between the visual and the sound. So you'll need to do some amplitude following, or you need to do some onset detection, or you want to have the spectrum of the sound, those types of things. Something else that is quite common is that you want some kind of timeline, especially if you're not using Ableton, for example. So this is quite common that some people use Ableton together with Max for audiovisual projects. I don't really use Ableton, so I wanted to have some objects that allow me to manipulate the timeline from within Max. So I created some objects to work with that. Like something that gives you actually when the time is, some object that allows you to trigger moments in time, something that allows you to do automation through a function. And then there's also some objects on the bottom that are basically some extensions to jitter objects, like for example av.movie tilde or av.movie play, av.camera control. So we can have a look at some of these. There is a full example that allows you to see how everything works in the same time, but maybe it's nice to just do it from scratch or something. This is fully improvised, but so if you want to start a jitter project, you usually would add like a jit.world, but in this case you can type av.world. Because what happens when you hit enter is that it puts in a bunch of default parameters for you. So you don't have to type in all these default parameters yourself. So it sets the dimension, it sets the window position, window size, floating, full screen, full scene anti-aliasing, those types of things. And then we can turn this on. And then if we want something like a grid shape, instead of typing ggl.grid shape, we can also create a grid shape a bit faster through some of these mappings. And then this gives us already a grid shape with some shading and lighting. Of course, you can extend this with the material and PBR and all these extra objects that are there. But the goal is just to have some faster way to get started. So if I want this shape to be audio reactive, for example, I would need some buffer with a drum loop maybe. Maybe use the groove object that loops the buffer. Connect these up. We of course want to play this. this should be sounding, I think.
Yep, we can hear it.
That's great. So then from the signal, we want maybe the envelope, or we want maybe some onset detections. So for that, we can create, for example, AV.amp, which is just a simple envelope follower. And it just shows the signal from the right output, or it can give you the amplitude as a floating point value. For this, you need to send a bang. And the seasoned jitter users will know what to do with that bang, because you will have to use the render bang to make sure it updates for every frame. And then you can use this as a parameter for, I don't know, the scale or something.
Very cool.
So then you have some amplitude following quite fast already. And of course, there's many things that you want to change, maybe the scaling, maybe the parameters of how the amplitude following is done. But for many things, just use the regular max objects, of course. If you want the scaling to be different, then just use scale and work with it from there. So if you want an onset detection, for example, you can use AV.trigger. And then this will give a bang when it reaches a certain threshold. The threshold can be set with the inlets, of course. All these objects have help files as well, so you can look at how to work with them in the help file. So here's an AV trigger. So maybe we want a different shape every time. Every time it triggers. And then maybe I'll change the threshold a little bit. And let's change the scaling also a little bit. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah, that works. So this is basically the basics of how this AV-Toolbox can help you to get started with an audiovisual project. Something that is included as well that is now maybe in Max 9 a bit obsolete is that you can find all the shaders for the slab object quite quickly by just typing ggl slab dot, and then you get all the options that are out there. This can be done now with jit.fx for most of them, I think. Not all are included yet, which is maybe something to look into in the future. But the idea here is that you click, for example, Luma displays, and then it replaces the actual text with what you would have to load as a file in order to use that slab. So if we would want to use that here, then we would have to create an av.node. We connect the grid shape to the nodes. We create an av.video plane. So we can play back the sphere, and then we can attach this. And then we have our Luma displacement. Or we can do ggl.slab. I don't know, some random color changing effect.
Very nice.
So these are all created also to create some faster workflow into trying different effects. Without having to go into the package contents, for example. I think I'll leave it at this for now. I can share this patch for those who want to have it actually.
If you wouldn't mind saving it, Teemo, and maybe dropping it in the chat, that would be appreciated. It was pretty.
It is just too long. The message is too long. Okay, I'll save it as a file.
Yeah, it was it was pretty amazing to see how quickly he threw that together. And there was a question here with regards to is the AV.amp doing a peak amp or a snapshot?
It is doing a snapshot. It is. I mean, it's not doing just a snapshot. It is an envelope follower, so it is taking some average of the signal over some specific amount of time. You can define the attack time and release time of the envelope follower in milliseconds as well. And then it is taking a snapshot of the envelope followed signal. So if you want to know how it works exactly, you can just double click it, of course, and then you can see the subpatch. So it goes through an absolute, then it converts it to decibels, then it does a slide, then it goes from decibels back to amplitude, then it takes the snapshot.
Nice.
And that's basically how it works. There's a more intricate version. It's called Follow and Follow 3. Follow 3 allows you to have an envelope follower on 3 different bands in the spectrum. So you have one for the low end, one for the mid, and one for the high, which can give you some options to do with the low, mid, and the high frequencies, for example.
Yeah, that's handy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these are the things that I find that I need to use many times. So
right.
At least I don't have to copy them every time from a different patch. And if someone finds it useful as well, then that would.
I
be
think
great.
they make the best packages and abstractions. It's like if you find yourself remaking the same thing over and over again, you just need to kind of check yourself and be like, you know what, I should roll that into an abstraction.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. And some people prefer snippets, but I'm not a snippets fan because I like to type things and just type N and then start typing something. And for snippets, I have to go with too many mouse movements. So
yep, same. I mean,
that's
snippets.
Why I go for abstractions. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I don't mind snippets. I've got nothing against snippets, but yeah. I think the thing was that snippets weren't there when I started, so it's like...
That's also, it's maybe a bit conservative to say no snippets. For me, it doesn't work. No.
I'm pre-snippets.
Yeah.
But yeah, the abstractions are great because if you know, and I think for some reason I can keep a catalog of my hundreds of abstractions better than I can. It takes me longer to go to the sidebar and find the abstraction.
Exactly, yeah. And for me, it's also like, okay, I just type TH and then I can go to the things. And if it's something with jitter, I just type the GL part, of course. And then in the case of the audiovisual toolbox, you just type AV.
Yeah.
And then you get, hopefully, to the point where you want to go.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Folks, other questions for Timo while we have him here before we wrap up? Let's see.
There's no, I mean, for me, there's no rush, but also I'm not going to stay around till 12, of course. Or, depends on what your time zone is, but for me, 12 is 3 hours.
So thanks for sharing, Timo. I see a couple of people typing. I presume there's some questions coming. But yeah, folks, Teemo is super friendly, very approachable. As we talked about earlier, he's spread out across the forum and Facebook and Discord. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Exactly.
Paradiddle is saying, I saw a live performance of drum code and there was some tempo changes. How were they done?
Tempo changes in the drum code performance. I mean, in the case of the drum code performance, the tempo changes is mainly me just typing, like I showed in the code before. Like I can type set tempo and something else, and then in the piece drum code, I usually just type the tempo that I want to go to, and in some cases, there's also an option to add a ramp, so it gradually changes into the next tempo.
Nice.
I think that's the main thing, and for me it's just an improvisation. So when I feel the tempo needs to change, I'll change it.
Yeah.
But it's not programmed into the piece necessarily, and it's in this case actually also not necessarily the computer making the decision of the tempo change. I have tried that to give the computer the decision of the tempo, which was fun also, but yeah, sometimes there's things that you want to have control over, and sometimes there's things that you can leave up to chance. And the tempo is one of the things that I prefer to decide myself in this case. I have been trying also some ways of letting the computer follow my tempo in real time. This is still a work in progress because, yeah, it just was very buggy so far. I mean, a tap tempo is of course something you can make, but if you want something that continuously catches your tempo, if you're playing lots of different things, it was a bit more tricky. And in the end, the music that I make is very straight on the grid in many times. So in that sense, for me, it's not so necessary to have it. It's also very free. If that answers the question.
Yeah, excellent. They're also asking, what if you accelerate? Can it follow?
Yeah, so this is basically what I was saying. Like, I tried to make something to let the computer really follow my lead, but I haven't been able to get something that is reliable, I guess, without like going all over the place if I
Right.
if it misreads something, or I don't know. So I'm not there yet, but if anybody has suggestions for papers or objects or something I can look into that can help with this, then I'm always open to suggestions, of course.
Yeah. Alexander Panos says, thanks for the logistic map granulator.
Yes,
It's one
I
of his
saw it,
favorite granular synths. It sounds amazing.
You're
Used
welcome.
it a ton on his last album.
That's great. Okay, then share me a link to your album. I don't
Yeah,
think I've heard that.
Alexander,
Now I'm
post your
curious.
album.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
Alexander's
Yeah,
album's
it's a
brilliant.
nice synth. I was actually surprised how many people used it. I even saw Richard Devine use it also in some Instagram posts.
Yeah.
So it was fun that it's.
And then a follow-up question from High Harmonics is, can you briefly tell us your approach in Max to granular synthesis? I'm not sure how brief you can be to explaining granular.
My approach, I don't know, briefly, but I don't know. I have tried different approaches. Like, if you're asking this more technically, in the sense like, do you use like a poly, or like, do you use grooves, or do you use play tilde, or do you use MC now, or like I've tried many different ways. I think the logistics map granulator was a multi-channel MC object patcher. I think the reason was mainly because MC just got out, and I just wanted to try to make something with that as well. I have some other granulators that mainly work with poly. In the end, to be honest, I still use poly much more than I use multi-channel or the MC object. For those who will look into my Mercury project later, they will probably find almost no MC object, and almost everything is with poly. Because for some reason, like, multi-channel is very nice if you want something quick multi-channel, but in the end I need more things around it that are not possible with MC, like the regular jitter object or the regular just data object. And then if those need to be in the same voice as with one channel, then in the end poly works better in many of my workflows. So yeah, that's I don't know if this is answering the question, but I have some granulators that I can share if you want. Then just send me a message, and The logistics map granulator is for sure online, so you can try that one out if you like. I'm not sure if I have more granulators online. I would have to check.
Yeah, granular synthesis is one of those ones where I think there's quite a few in the world of Macs around. Loading a sample and creating a granular synth. The one area I see people regularly grappling with is the real-time granular synth. Yeah,
Right, like
live granular synthesis.
Yeah, I've never really done live granular synthesis. Usually I use pre-recorded samples, actually, yeah.
Some of the best I've seen is by Kentaro Tools. I see Kentaro is in here, actually. He has a couple of nice real-time granular effects.
Awesome. I have not seen those, I think.
Yeah.
But if those links can also be shared, so I can expand my vision on granular synthesis.
Yeah, I see Alexandra here. Yeah. Read head versus write head. It sounds so simple.
Yeah.
It's so simple until you need to loop around and keep track of all of those heads for each grain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but also, for me, I use granular synthesis, but also in my performances, I never really use it that much.
Right.
Which is also interesting. But yeah.
I still love some of those old granular synths that were inside of Popple or Loop back in the day.
I've never used that, actually.
Yeah, there was some classics. I think it was GG Grainer and KK Grainer.
Okay.
Two different. I think they were based off of Sugar Synth.
Right, I know that one.
Yeah, which is probably was one of the first granular synth patches shared when MSP became available.
Yeah. And I think I can't really remember how it was made, but I when I looked into it, I think many of those ideas are still the same now as well.
Oh no, it's barely changed. It's like it's barely changed at all. It was basically offset phases.
Yeah, right, and then play just a few voices with offset looping phases.
Yep. Yep. But this was, I think it was released in 1999, or it was like it seemed very very advanced for that moment. There was some other granular synths around, but it was like no one was sharing the under the hood version.
Yeah, exactly. That's like in the moment where everybody was very mysterious about the secrets. Max patches. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not so mysterious about my max patches. Like, whatever.
It's great. It's great. Nice, Teemo. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, of course. You've been on the list for a long time. It just made sense to get you on board, and stoked to have spent the morning with you.
For me the evening, but thank you.
Yeah, folks. We
as you can see,
we have another office hours next week, starting 1 hour earlier, so that will be 10 a.m. Pacific. We have Marta Verde, who will be joining us. Marta is a CT educator. We're super excited to have Marta come and join us and talk about her work and talk about her life in Max. Can't wait for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, folks, we'll see you back here 10 a.m. next Tuesday, Pacific time. Keep an eye out for the links. Great to have you here. Be sure to follow up with Teemo if you have other questions, and also scroll back up in the chat. The chat stays live. The chat is still accessible through the live stream even once it finishes. So yeah. Timo, thanks so much.
I'll hang around in the chat a bit more as well. So
Awesome.
if there's any more questions,
Timo, just stay on the
I'll keep
call
an
for
eye
a
on
second.
okay, yeah.
Stay on the call,
You just
folks. We're gonna wrap it up here. Enjoy your week. See you later.
See you later.
Nice. Good
All right.
stuff, Timo. That was awesome, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it came across well.